Hey there again. It's me, Sebastian, from Shoop, and we're continuing our series on building in public. Sorry, this episode is slightly late because we got actually run into some tech challenges in presenting you our wiki with privacy preserved. So that took a while, and we thought we can blur stuff. It turns out we cannot blur stuff. It's much too complicated if you scroll. So with further ado, we want to show you how we work. And the last episode, we talked about ideation, how to come up with ideas, and we want to show you our list, or part of the list, and talk you through the first idea. So here, you see actually our LLM wiki. You can see also the link to this, or how this can generate it through LLMs and the power of LLMs in the show notes. And we want to start here with our first idea. You see we have a list of 11 ideas that we ideated. And if you want to know how we came up with those, check our last episode. The first one we wanted to talk to you is our UIPath agency. And we came up with this because on another project, we worked with a software that's called UIPath. And I'll show you in a bit what that software is. But really, this was one way of building an agency where we believe we could get to the 1 million ARR fast. Let's look into it. You see, so the LLM agent worked a lot as well as us in here. And I want to give you a brief intro into the problem. Let's first look, what is UIPath? UIPath is a software that's actually used to automate processes on existing old software. Like think here, you have a form or something in an old software, and you cannot apply AI to it and automate it. And this is where UiPath comes in. UiPath is a publicly traded company, fairly large business, used by a lot of people that have to do work with old software. And it turns out working with that old software is super painful, because we actually built a previous company called Legacy Use, where we looked into it having this done through AI, and for an internal use case, then switched to UiPath and found out, boy, this is the right solution, but it's super painful to use, knowing what AI can do. And so this sparked the idea that, hey, can't we do parts of the workflows that we're using with UiPath, can't we do them automatically? And to give you an idea, for those who don't know what UiPath is, basically you have like a macro recorder, you click through stuff, and then the UiPath software records it and can basically replay it with new input. Like filling an order form for a software which you can access, it will go through, type like a human. And obviously these things break, and this is where the problems start. Let's look briefly here at our wiki. So this helped us actually to find out what problems are, and it turns out that in using UiPath, one of the core problems is actually maintenance. Like here, they gave us this quote that for some companies, 60% of the maintenance bill were just from one bug, and in general, the company's blog actually talks about that you pay 2 to 3 times the amount for maintenance compared to implementation. So maintenance is the big bucket where this stuff is happening. And our hunch was, hey, couldn't we automate maintenance? And so that would be the idea, and offer this as a service, because as of today, there is companies that actually offer such services, and our idea was, could we get them done through AI and still offer it as an agency? Because as an agency, it's actually doable to reach 1 million ARR. And so the whole thing helped us to ideate. We answered a lot of questions, and we basically got down to 4. We got a lot of risks to moves that we should do. Can we find a first paying customer? Can we reproduce the pain outside of our own pain? Does the AI actually help in doing this thing? And do we find a way to scale customer acquisition? And obviously we started with the first one is someone paying? And we thought since we were new to the industry and we've been using the software for a few months, we needed to learn more. And I think that's typical to many of you that start out in the industry that haven't been in there. Hey, we need to learn. But what I really caution you is about learn too long and then really go to interviews. And here we really had it. I mean, we were interviews and we know a lot of stuff, but not everything. And we went through, and it all went well. And so we thought, let's talk with 3 groups that are sort of involved in the process. First, there's existing agencies out there. Let's give them a call for our existing problem, ask them a quote, how stuff is done. Then try to identify buyers of our solutions and try to sell to them. And also talk to the end user of that software, namely developer. And those are the 3 buckets we started outreach on. And I first like to start with the agencies. And I think that's a really neat way how you can do this. And this again has been all generated for us, whom to call and what to ask them, and what holes we still had in our thing. Because agencies, if the service is already provided, you can ask them and pose, or in our case, we actually have this application, right? We have this company where they need this UiPath stuff fixed. So we called them, and here, for example, also it created us a call log, whom to call. We removed names here through, and often we had either, hey, I'm a student writing a thesis on this. Can you help me? The other thing is, hey, we have this problem in the company and we'd like to buy it. And then we obviously ask them sort of questions like, hey, what is your best practices? How to work with customers? Where do you see often problems? Like from a perspective of a real customer that's very interested in the whole thing. And that really helped us to understand the space. And here, for example, is how we did call notes. We noted down these things after the call and then again fed it into the LLM wiki. What we learned here is all these agencies take a huge pride in coming from Germany, doing highest quality stuff, because there is both agencies and people offering these services outsourced from around the world on Fiverr or Upwork. So this was the biggest difference we saw there. And we learned a lot about the industry, but for them, mostly the problem was in getting the information if there has been a bug, rather than working a lot on UiPath, but like, why did it break? What did you expect? All these sorts of things. Then we also are trying to talk with buyers. That turned out to be much more complicated. We had a few inroads that we went, because we actually didn't know who's really buying this at companies. We looked at people that publicly won awards. So basically UiPath had this competition who's doing a really great job in the UiPath universe, and we decided to reach out to them and say, hey, awesome, we saw you won this awards, and we were wondering if this thing is a problem for you. And also again, went through the interview, say, hey, when did you last had a problem? What are your pains in the daily life, and how big should it be? And try to run mom tests. Here we actually tried outreach also by LinkedIn, and that turned out to be much harder for us. And we're still waiting to get real good feedback. The third thing was asking developers. And that actually went really well, because we looked, because they are sort of maybe not the person that buy it, but the person that use it or have some of the pain. And so it was super interesting to talk to them, and we had the idea maybe we can sell through them. And those were easier to find. We have down here where we got well, that doesn't mind. So we figured there's actually different ways how we can reach them. There was a Reddit forum. There was UiPath had their own forum, GitHub issues provided. So we looked where's developers that are complaining about these problems. And we wrote them, hey, we have the solution, a prototype, up for a chat. And this really helped us tons to get in touch. They were really responsive. we set up calls with them and talk to like, how is it for you in the daily use, and how could you use it? And what we've learned here is that yes, that's a problem for them, but also on the other hand is they're mostly in larger enterprises, and it's not easy for them just to buy something. Even if it's sort of an outsourced service, because they need to go through the whole buying protocol, and it takes 6 months. So really here, the idea we're looking at now is like, hey, what if this is open source and we have value-added stuff on top? Is that a way to break into these companies that they use our open source solution, and eventually we'll build add-ons to refinance the whole thing? Because this we got confirmed from them is yes, if it's open source, we could basically start using it tomorrow. But it would require us to do also the upfront investment in building out that stuff. So this is something we really now need to ponder, and we want to look at if we find a few customers at least that are willing to buy to confirm, and then this would be our scaling strategy. And I want to show you what decks we now use when we're looking to have these meetings with buyers now, and you'll hear in the next episode how they went. But this is what we show them. And so we're looking basically, we're checking them. We're asking for design partners, and we're basically telling them we're trying to work through the pull framework from Rob Snyder here partly to see is there pull. Starting out with showing one problem, that the diagnosis of a problem costs way more than the fix, and putting some quotes from that we heard from interviews. We're basically assuming that they are looking into this problem, but not have found the right solution. And we're putting here statements where we ask them as, hey, do you see the same? Like, we've seen from customer that this is the problem, and then customers are normally triggered and say, yeah, no, but this is 70% with me. And so we really want to get this, and then show them our solution, which, I mean, this is maybe not interesting for you guys, but the problem is, so if this UIPath fails, then the engineer needs to look at it, looks at the logs, tries to find out what was actually wrong, we're repeating what we're repeating people expecting, writes the fix, and then sends it live. And our approach is that we can actually automatically detect these fails and actually find out what was wrong, open a pull request, so draft a solution, what could be fixed, and then the customer or in this case, the customer can look at it, or the engineer at the customer can look at it and say, yeah, this is what it should be, and approves it and done. And this is where the savings come from. And we only want to tell these people that we understand enterprise. We're just not two random dudes that have no idea, and address typically concerns in enterprise situations. So they have full authority on everything. It can't create anything, and they can host it themselves. They can use their own LLMs. And then also show them some numbers what we saw break during interviews, and also triggers them and say, hey, where are you in this? If this would happen, what would it do in your case? And briefly show them who we are, and that we can deliver, and then ask them basically for a development partnership. They would get from us the solution. We would make it a 6-week sprint with them. We do charge for it. Is this the final price? By no means, no. We don't know what it actually would be, but we want a price tag so we know it's valuable to them. That is the core idea here, right? Not to do anything if they don't pay for it. And then after 6 weeks, there's a go, no-go decision. Now our idea is here to really charge this also as a consulting fee, because this seems to be much easier to get through procurement. So this is what we're building here on this end, with the idea if we can automate this, we can take tons of the workload of the existing people that fix these bugs and get to the 1 million ARR. In the next episode, we will tell you more on our other ideas. So you see there's a long list. We're actually actively working on the second one. So I'm hoping you're interested what that turns out. And we'll give an update on how potential buyers responded. So shall we continue this? Because we only continue if someone buys. So thank you for this turn. If you have any questions or want to know anything else, write us in the comments and we'll answer. See you around.